Welcome back to Fiction Tea with Tea Outlaw. Today we're going to talk about Legion episode 6. Yes, we're getting close to the last 2 episodes are coming. So this episode we have Lenny who's interviewing everyone as if she's their therapist, and Sydney is kind of just feeling like this is not right. Like something isn't right. This doesn't feel real. This feels fake. And then it goes to a scene where she sees this wooden door and she hears this noise knocking on the door, like trying to escape, trying to get out. And I believe that's a metaphor telling her this isn't real, this is fake. And later on she mentions how there's this door and everybody's like, this door just basically just came out of nowhere, and the door is trying to remind her like this isn't real and you need to get out of this, you need to open the door, you need to escape this. So there are a couple of scenes being played back as deja vu. There's the one scene that is played by Memory Guy and David where they're one of the guys, the guy who actually tried to shoot David, they're watching him drool. And if you think about episode 1, that's the same exact thing that Lenny and David were doing, watching some other guy drool, and Lenny was like, it's just spit, it's just human spit. And then there's another scene where David sneaks into Sydney's room, and that was something that Sydney did in one of the previous episodes. And you're just like, deja vu. This is definitely deja vu, and this is not real. This is some fake stuff. That whole also actually reminded me of American Horror Story. I believe it was season 2 or season 1? It might have been season 1. When they were like in the psych ward and everybody was going crazy. That episode reminded me of that. It definitely seemed like it might have took some elements from that. Or from what I've watched, what I remember from American Horror Story, like, it definitely reminds me of that a lot. And I was like, ooh, I kind of like this, where it's going, where it's headed. So a memory guy has his putty in one of his memories because everybody's sitting around talking about their experiences, talking about their memories and their trauma. And memory guy brings up his trauma where he keeps having this memory about his mom. And he's like, yeah, I used to play with this putty thing. And then it shows Sydney later on playing with this putty, and I'm thinking, okay, the putty must be some sort of like object used that the underlining telling us and telling her or telling the audience that putty is just like what's going on. They're all just putty. They're being manipulated. When you have putty, you can stretch it out. You can form it into any way you want it to be. And they're all being manipulated, thinking that they're in a psych ward when they're really not in a psych ward. Later on, as the episode goes on, we find out that this whole thing has been manipulated. This whole thing, the story has completely changed. David believes that he just has manic depression, and that Sydney is the crazy one. Sydney is the psychotic one, which in fact he really is the psychotic one that sees and hears things. He's the schizophrenic, but he's putting it on her like, oh no, remember you said that you saw this and you heard this, and she's like, no, that's not me, that's you, that's what you do, like that's your thing. And he's like, yeah, like, okay, whatever, like, you're really crazy. And she's just like, what's going on? Like, something isn't right. I'm not the crazy one. You're the crazy one. Do you understand what's going on? And David is just kind of oblivious to it all. So then Sydney, she's walking through the hallway after she got finished talking to David, and she's just so confused. And she's so confused, and she sees in the wall this dent that's like leaking blood, and it's like thumping, so it's kind of like a thumping heart. It also triggers what happened in that episode, in the previous episode, when it showed Lenny's body and her face in the wall dripping blood, and that triggers all the thoughts and everything that's truthful coming and rushing back to her. And she kind of realizes, like, yeah, this really is not real, and I know for a fact that it's not now, for sure. And then Lenny shows up and gives her like these headphones, which I believe it puts her in this like sleep state. And yeah, David, he goes around, he's looking for her, and David finds Lenny, and he's like, have you seen Sydney? And she's like, oh, no, take a seat. He sits down, and he's like, you know, I'm really in love with Sydney, I love her. And Lenny is like, you know what? Bonk Sydney. Forget love. You need to be with me so that we can be as powerful as you're way more powerful without this whole love thing. And she's basically trying to convince him to let Sydney go. And he's like, what did you do to Sydney? What did you do? So then it jumps to the scene where Oliver ends up showing up, and like his, I don't know what's the name of the suit. Somebody comment below, let me know. Yeah, he shows up in like that water tank suit, whatever it's called. And yeah, he tells Sydney, you know, come on. She's like, what's going on? Like, what's going on, my love? He communicates with her through, I believe, memory. I'm not sure how he's communicating with her. But she sees him through the wall. She goes to the wall, and he shows her the real, like where they really were at, where they are, what's going on. Everything is stopped. Everything is frozen. And it's just the guy who is trying to shoot David, and she's trying to separate David from Sydney because Sydney had hugged David, and she's trying to stop the bullet as well, but she can't. These weird, creepy eyes pop up on the wall, and I assume that they're Lenny's eyes. It looks super creepy. So then it goes to Lenny and David, and it goes back to Lenny and David, and Lenny tells David, the most important thing is power. It's God. And Walter, the guy with the blind eye, he understands that, David, and you need to understand that. She's basically trying to convince him that everything is about power, life is about power, and he needs to be with her as one himself, his dark side, his monster, in order to be powerful. She says, we need to be powerful together. And then it shows the scientist guy who's actually in Oliver's suit, and he wakes Sydney up and he tells her, let's go. So I'm assuming, because it ends, that he tells Sydney, let go. They go back to the real world, the real of what's really going on, their reality. And he gets them out of there. Yeah, overall, another good episode. I enjoyed it. Can't wait to get to the last final episode to see what's really going to happen. And if you like this video, comment below, let me know your thoughts, some insight, and I will see y'all next time for the next video. Don't forget to purchase a copy of the Reign series. This is only series 1. There will be more to come. If you are into this show, you will really enjoy this book because it relates to it just like this book does. And you can go on Amazon and read the back cover. You can also get some insight on the book and read a little bit of it on Amazon. The link is in the description box below. And I really appreciate it if you would support and buy this book, because it will also let me write more books and publish more books.